Good evening. I'd like to call the January 11th, 2012 meeting of the Urban Design Commission to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Douglas Gasek. Jim Sawhill.
Here.
Andrew Garcia.
Here.
Jeff Dinwiddie.
Here.
Thomas Tiber.
Here.
Steve Pratt.
Here.
Lori Abel. Here.
We have a quorum tonight, which is something new for us lately. The next item of business is the minutes. We have the minutes from September 11th, 2011, October 12th, 2011, and November 9th, 2011. May I have a positive motion, please? Mr. Pratt, seconded by Mr. Garcia. Is there any comments, additions to the minutes? Is there objection to the minutes? Seeing none, that is approved. Our next item is special order of business. First is disclosures. Are there any disclosures tonight? Lori, please. Sorry.
Yes, I used to work for the Botanical Garden, and I have sold them plants in the last few years.
So, do you have what are our standards? You don't have any of findings of facts, conclusions, conflict of interest. So you don't have any substantial part in the present action. You're not directly involved in a substantial outcome. You don't have a significant monetary interest in the Botanical Gardens or the outcome tonight?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you don't. Can I have a motion to direct participation, please? Mr. Tybor, seconded by Mr. Garcia. Mr. Tybor, go ahead.
Yes, I tend to support the motion. I believe that there's no demonstrated conflict of interest.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, you are directed to participate. Is there any other disclosures? I have a disclosure tonight on the Russian Jack case. The company at which I'm a partner provided the design survey for the design that's before us tonight. So I do have a monetary issue with the case tonight and do not intend to participate. So I'm not sure procedurally how to do this, but yeah, we still need a motion to direct me to participate. Mr. Tybor?
Yes, I do not intend to support the motion as you've indicated that you do have a financial stake.
Yeah. Thank you. I still need a second for the record. Mr. Pratt, thank you.
I agree with Mr. Tybor. I do not intend to support the motion.
Since there are objection, please use your machines. Once we're ready. I am going to abstain from this. Yeah, no is a conflict, and yes directs me to participate. Yeah. Yeah. And I will not be participating. Any other disclosures? That moves us to our next item, which is case 2011-128. It's a request for a rehearing on an amendment to a public hearing site plan review for South Anchorage High School. This has been postponed from the December 14th hearing. Staff, may we have a short presentation?
Mr. Chair, I wasn't planning to do any sort of presentation. I think the Commission has its instructions of how to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Just for everybody's clarification, we have a motion or a request to which I guess is a brief and a motion to rehear based on having new evidence in our staff packet on pages 2 through 8. We have, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 allegations of new evidence that would require a rehearing. What I would like to do tonight is to go ahead and get a motion on the table to rehear it, and then have discussion among the board on whether we should rehear this or not. If we do decide to rehear it, then we need to make a decision on the scope of the rehearing, if we want to limit that. And we have these 6 items that each individually could initiate a rehearing, have sufficient information, and we're going to need to, for the record, be able to discuss each of those if we are not going to rehear it, or if we are going to rehear it, and have findings on those individual issues on whether we think it meets the standard of new evidence and justifies a new hearing. So it's going to take a little bit to get through this and get through each of those items and come up with a good record for the hearing or to not have the hearing. So I think the first thing I would like to have is a motion to get this on the floor so we can discuss it. Mr. Garcia?
I believe we should discuss the 6 items at hand and individually go through them to decide whether or not we have to rehear the case based on the evidence that's provided for us at this time.
I think what we need is a more formal motion. I move to rehear, something along those lines.
I move to rehear case, what's the number on this one? 2011-128, the facility site plan review for South Anchorage High School.
I think the case number, just a correction there, is 2011-036.
Oh, okay, I was just reading off the agenda.
Okay. So we have 2 case numbers? Wonderful. Okay, so our case for the rehearing is 2011-128, and our original case was 2011-036. Is that correct, Madam Secretary? Thank you. And we have a second by Mr. Tybor. And this is going to be a little, it's not a procedure we typically go through, so we're going to have to find our way a little bit. But we're looking for discussion, and I guess I would like to see some general discussion on whether you believe the 6 items brought forward or justify a rehearing, and if there are specific issues that you feel do justify a rehearing, we need to discuss those. So, would you like to speak to your motion?
Am I to discuss all 6 things at a time, or individually go through these, or how are we proceed?
However you would like to go at this point.
Okay. I guess after having read this new evidence, I do not feel it would provide substantial evidence to necessitate a rehearing of this case.
Okay.
I felt the items that we addressed in our original hearing covered these, and the evidence that has been presented doesn't change my opinion on any of these 6 items. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay. Mr. Pratt?
Just kind of a point of order. Is it the intent of the chair to to go through and actually address the substance of each of the 6 points?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
If we're not going to go forward with a rehearing based on this new evidence, I think we need to, on each of these items, address why we don't feel that's sufficient new evidence.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of your findings, you can get a little bit more specific. But you want to, in your own minds, measure those items A through F against the standards on the first page, B1 and B2. Then, in your findings after the vote, the findings to support your vote, you can get a little more specific, but we want to stay away from the meat of the arguments because those are the public hearing items, and this is not a public hearing tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Is there additional board comments, discussion?
Jim. It doesn't work? We've gone somewhere else.
Mr. Dinwiddie?
Requesting to speak? Oh, I'm not on the floor. Okay. I will not support the motion to rehear. Based on reading through these, several of these items are out of the purview for the UDC. The items that they're asking to rehear are not items that are under our core mission. If you read through what we're charged to do, some of these issues have to do with municipal code that is not covered under the UDC. So I think rehearing them will be open ourselves to hearing a bunch of public testimony over stuff that we don't have any decision power over. I believe we did our job the first time, and I will not support a motion to rehear the case.
Thank you, Mr. Dinwiddie. Any other board comments? Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, thank you. I also will not support the motion to rehear. I've looked through the, I guess, alleged defects in the procedure, and I've looked through the information that was brought forward, and I also did not find any new evidence that would have substantially altered either the hearing record or the decision of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. I would like to, basically get on record that I do not intend to support the motion for rehearing either. I do not find sufficient, in any of these allegations, sufficient new evidence to justify a rehearing. And I would like to go ahead and start addressing some of the individual items that have been brought up as additional evidence. The first is item A. The Planning and Zoning Commission, not the Urban Design Commission, was the proper body to consider the proposed changes to the South Anchorage High School site plan. I have reviewed the brief provided by the persons asking for the rehearing and the explanation by staff, and I would concur with staff's position that we are the proper body to hear site plans, and that authority was delegated to this body by the Assembly in 2008, so I do not find sufficient evidence for item A. Item B, new evidence demonstrating human noise impacts in comparable football stadiums is now available and must be considered, and I was not swayed by that information either. I do have some experience on projects doing noise studies and how they affect an area, and there are procedures that must be followed by acoustical engineers to set up recording stations, measured noise. Noise is statistically weighted over a time period, and instantaneous noise events is not the standard by which noise is rated for analysis for impacts. And the additional issue with noise in this allegation is human voice is not regulated in our municipal noise ordinance. So it would be drifting outside the area that's even a regulated issue for the municipality, so I was not swayed by that new evidence. New evidence indicates that the Anchorage School District may continue, item C, to be out of compliance with special limitations required on the South Anchorage High School property. The municipal code prohibits granting new entitlements to a party that is out of compliance I do not find this new evidence to be sufficient to warrant a new hearing. We did condition the approval of this to require compliance, to bring them back in compliance with the buffering requirements around the high school. This is a standard procedure within the municipality, and that out of compliance will be corrected prior to the football stadium going into operation. So I do not find that new evidence to be persuasive to require a new hearing. Next is item D, Resolution 2011-006, fails to adequately consider the mandates of the Hillside District Plan. I believe the Hillside District Plan analysis was provided by staff in our staff packet, and that information was considered by the board when we reviewed the case. And so I'm not persuaded that we failed in our duty to analyze the Hillside District Plan, and do not consider that new evidence to be sufficient for a new public hearing. Item E, community support for Resolution 2011-006 has changed. I understand that the Huffman O'Malley Community Council has some change of heart. I don't believe that their change in their position is new evidence that would have changed my position in the case. I do understand that there has been meetings with the school district since then, and failure to come to agreement on all the issues at hand, but that is not an issue for this board, and that new evidence does not constitute sufficient for a rehearing, in my opinion. And then last, item F, Resolution 2011-006, contains several inaccuracies. I do not find that allegation to be sufficient new evidence for a public hearing. The fact that we included, by mistake, requirements for lighting on the baseball improvements versus the football stadium is not a significant error. The way I interpret it, if the baseball ever adds lighting, they got to conform to standards, and I don't consider that to be a major issue, and definitely nothing that requires a rehearing to correct that minor deficiency. So for those reasons, I will not be supporting any additional rehearing. Are there any other board member comments for findings for our decision tonight? Mr. Tybor?
Mr. Chair, I also want to go on record that I do not intend to support the motion to rehear the case for the same reasons which you just elaborated. I did not. I reviewed points A through F and did not find any compelling reason to change our position and open a rehearing.
Thank you, Mr. Tybor. Any additional discussion? Since there is objection to the motion, I would like to go ahead and use the machines. That motion fails. That brings us to our next item of business, which is the consent agenda. Tonight we have resolutions for approval 2011-001 and resolution for approval 2011-007. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Mr. Pratt? Mr. Garcia? Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to the consent agenda? Oh, we don't do that. Okay, we didn't pull anything. That's right. Is there objection to the consent agenda? Seeing none, that is approved. Okay. This was not. The fact that it was postponed was on the record.
Okay, so this is pretty much the reason, as far as I know, it's postponed, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Once we get there.
Okay, once we get there.
Well,
Thank you.
usually we do it at the beginning of the meeting, but we were busy.
All right. And
Good work.
item 2A. Right. Our next case is 2011-123. The petitioner is Municipality of Anchorage. It's a request for a site plan and landscape plan review for a fire station. It is located at 2207 McCrae Road. Staff, may we have a presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Anchorage Fire Department is requesting preliminary landscape plan and final site plan approval for Fire Station Number 5. The Urban Design Commission reviews these plans, and we'll get a second opportunity to review the plans on February 8th in about a month. That's the normal way of handling a public facility, is the two-step review. The Planning Division finds that the architecture for the new fire station is well-suited for the site. You can see a drawing of the new building on page 25 of your packet. And then the previous page, page 24, you can see the landscape sheet, and there's an abundance of landscaping. Particularly around the public walkway sort of across the site to the Boys and Girls Club, from McCrae Road to the Boys and Girls Club. There have been no objections from the reviewing agencies and no objections for the public. My understanding is that it's a greatly anticipated project. The Spenard Community Council has been supportive of this project. It doesn't appear to be a controversial project. The department recommends approval of this preliminary landscape plan and final site plan subject to conditions 1 through 6 on page 4 of the packet. These conditions are standard, and the petitioner has spoken with staff and said that they have no problems with these conditions, and that they've already worked to address these conditions in their forthcoming submittal for the final review by the Commission. The petitioner is here to answer questions. Also, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Is there any questions of staff? Apparently not. Is the applicant here? Would you please come forward and make a brief presentation?
My name is Robert Nybert with MOA Capital Projects. I'm the project manager for Fire Station 5. And I would request their approval on the review on the project, and would like to just give you a brief description of the job and show you our drawings, a rendition of the project. And as you can see, we replatted the adjoining property and took consideration on the landscaping with the Boys and Girls Club in mind, and also the lighted walkway with access on the far side of the lot to make sure that the Boys and Girls Club and public has access to the appropriate egresses. This is Chip Bannister with the Cuman Associates, architect. I'll let him give you a brief explanation of anything that he could help me with on this, and then we'll answer any questions that we would like to give you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bannister.
Thank you. I think your staff did a pretty good job of describing the overall project. Just a couple of key points. This is a new fire station to replace the existing station. It's in a zone that transitions between residential neighborhood and a commercial neighborhood. The building was centered in the site to provide buffer aspects from the residential to the commercial area. We've got our staff parking in the back, public parking in the front. We've got the main access over on the east side, which is the more commercial portion of the neighborhood. Residential areas over here, and we have more quiet and living aspects of the station and the site happening over on this with patio area and things like that. It's heavily landscaped on all three sides, except for, of course, the apparatus bay area where the station, the trucks, pedestrian walkway that connects Boys and Girls Club up with a sidewalk from McRae. But yet it takes cues from traditional fire stations in some of the materials and appearance. For example,
Mr. Bannister, if you could catch the mic a little better so we can get you on record, that would be good. Yeah, could you hold on just a second? We may be having some technical difficulties with our recording. Sorry for the...
That was the summary of the presentation.
I just keep losing sound. And I don't know why.
May we answer any questions for you folks tonight?
Sure, just a second. We want to make sure we get our recording back up in
We'll
operation.
put her mouth closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Okay, I fixed
Are we okay again?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions of the applicant? Mr. Garsha?
The third department recommendation is to consider relocating the dumpster to a location that does not conflict with the bay doors. I know in the review, they were concerned that should a truck be needed, the once-a-week service that takes 5 to 10 minutes probably would interfere with the removal of that dumpster or the emptying of it. I just didn't know if you had an updated location for it or if you were still considering leaving it as it's shown on the current drawings.
No, we have accepted the recommendations by the Planning Commission, and we are relocating the dumpster in a different direction, not to block the access to from the fire trucks, and that'll be on the review that we'll be turning in early next week.
It's in the same location, but we've pivoted the approach to the dumpster so that the trucks can approach from this direction rather than the side, so it doesn't block the bays anymore.
Okay, that's my only question.
Thank you. Ms. Abel?
First of all, it's a very attractive building, and I think it's a big improvement for Spenard, but I guess mine is more a nuts and bolts question. And I like to garden a lot, but this is a lot of plant material. I just wonder, do the firefighters know what they're getting into? It's a big job.
Can you speak a little closer to your mic,
sorry.
please?
I think they know what they're getting into. They've already demonstrated that they're very good about taking care of their landscaping currently, and and they've been all for the amount of landscaping that we've done and the way we've used it to help provide some kind of private buffet areas for them on their patio, and they seem to be very excited about it.
Okay. So. That's all I wondered. It was quite a big job.
Thank you. Mr. Dinwiddie?
Well, follow up to that question. We've landscaped a few fire stations over the years, and one of them in particular that got redone maybe 8 years ago. We planted Scotch pines, and they got limbed up to about 8 feet. And in the spec here, it says you want them branch from 12 inch from the base. Scotch pine just don't do very well in Anchorage in general unless they're really well cared for, and in particular public projects they just don't. They have a tendency to brown out. They're just not a very good choice. The second tree that is probably a horrible choice for Anchorage in general is your golden reticula lilac tree. That tree is great if you're a homeowner and have a garden and you want to take care of it. But for a public use tree, that tree is going to be dead in a couple of years as soon as the landscaper is done with his warranty. I'd scratch that tree altogether. And the other one that's kind of sketchy is the plum tree. Both those are zone 4B, which means that at roughly 10 below zero, they're toast. So those ones I would scratch off the list. But other than that, it's a little overcrowded, it's a little busy, and it's going to be, in 10 years, it'll be pretty much wall-to-wall vegetation, but it looks good. So, I'd support it.
Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, our landscape architect could not be here to defend himself. He's a little bit busy tonight with his wife, so I will address these issues, or Chip will address these issues with him, and we'll get you an explanation as well. I have discussed in detail about the heavy landscaping, and he definitely emphasized the purposes of this, so I'll have a deeper explanation in my narrative that will provide to you in a later time.
Okay. Are there any other board questions? Apparently not. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This is not a public hearing, so with that, are there any additional questions of staff before we ask for a motion? Okay. Can I have a positive motion, please? Somebody? Anybody? Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
I move. Is this when I do my findings too?
No, let's get the motion on the board.
I make a motion to approve case number 2011-123, the site plan and landscaping plan review for fire station.
Thank you. We have a second. Mr. Tybor, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
I move to approve case 2011-123 based on the fact that it is consistent with the following Anchorage 2020 policies. Policy number 6, areas designated for specific use on the zoning map shall be protected from encroachment by incapable land use. Policy number 7, avoid incapable uses adjoining one another. Policy number 42, Northern City design conduct shall guide and design of all public facility projects, including parks and roads. Policy number 43, plans for major institutional developments are subject to site plan review. Policy number 44, design and build public improvements for long-term use. Policy 49, site plan layout and building design for new development shall consider the character of adjacent development. And policy number 50, healthy mature trees in forested areas shall be retained as much as possible. I think it should also be contingent upon the department recommendations 1 through 6 provided on page 4 of our packet.
It was originally.
Oh, that's the one I
Yeah.
posted it first.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're good.
That's all I really have
Okay.
at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Tybor, do you have any comments?
I intend to support the motion. As Commissioner Garcia stated, it's consistent with multiple key points of the Anchorage 2020 policies, and I do tend to support the motion.
Thank you. Is there any other board comments? Mr. Dinwiddie, your concern with some of the planting materials, did you want to add that as a condition of approval, that they reconsider or reevaluate those plant materials?
No, I think that Ralph will take a look at it before it comes back to us. We have to approve it again, so it's fine.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Is there objection to the motion? Seeing none, that is approved. sports arena. 'Cause I don't even have that on my agenda. They removed it. No, here it is. There we go.
No, it's postponed.
Okay. Yeah, before we get to our next case, our first public hearing case, 2011-141, the UAA facilities for the new sports center. That hearing has been postponed to the February 8th public hearing. So if anyone's here tonight for that, just wanted to let you know that you can go home and come back another evening. So with that, we will get to our next case, which is 2011-098. It's the Alaska Botanical Garden. It's a final site plan and landscape review for the Botanical Garden. Staff, may we have a presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. ABG is seeking approval of Phase 1. Phase 1 consists of replacing an existing storage barn with a 26 by 48-foot building that will serve as offices and workshop space for horticultural and maintenance personnel. It's important to note that when the project came to us the first time, it was a concept review, and now they're back again. At the concept review, they had shown a modular building with 4 on-site parking spaces. Now they're no longer doing the modular building. They're going to do a regular building, and the 4-car parking space they don't plan to do at this point. Although we may get an update to that tonight from their petitioner. Parking for the new work center will not be on site, but instead will be located at the Benny Benson School in a shared parking arrangement. Benny Benson, as you'll note on your plans, is across a driveway from the Botanical Garden. If a shared parking agreement cannot be reached with the school district, then the petitioner has proposed that the 4 parking spaces will be located along the entry driveway that serves the school and Alaska Botanical Gardens. Traffic engineering has stated that parking along the driveway is not a feasible solution. The site requires 1 accessible parking space. The petitioner proposes to locate it at the Benny Benson School. The petitioner shall demonstrate that the entire path of travel from the parking facility to the building entrance is continuous, unobstructed, designed and constructed to be accessible in accordance with the latest edition of the ICC, American National Standard. Paved surfaces shall be repaired prior to obtaining a CCO to make for a smooth surface. That's all I have. I'll answer any questions the Commission may have.
Are there any questions of staff? Apparently not. Will the applicant please come forward? State your name for the record.
I'm Aisha Gilbert. I'm president of the board of the ABG. And unfortunately, whereas all of our design team was here in December, Greg Romack and Elise Huggins are not here tonight, so I will help you as best I can.
Okay. Do you have any additional information to provide us at this
We
point?
don't object to any of the conditions. We have reviewed them.
Okay.
They seem fine.
Great. Is there any questions of the applicant? I had one. Can you give us an update on your parking plan? How's your agreement coming with?
I can give you an update on pieces of it. The agreement with the school district is being worked on right now. We don't see any problems with it. What we would ask of you is approval of this final site plan and allow us to work with staff as this process goes forward in making the parking arrangements work well for the site.
Do you think you'll be able to get a paved path all the way from the school into this site that'll meet standards?
I think we can get a path that will meet standards, yes.
Great. Are there any other questions of the applicant? Apparently not. Thank you. And I will take a positive motion from somebody besides Mr. Garcia. Tybor, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the final review of the site plan and landscape plan for case number 2011-098, Alaska Botanical Garden. I intend to support the motion.
Would it be subject to?
Subject to staff, subject to staff's the department recommendations 1 through 6 on pages 4 and 5 of the memorandum.
Great, thank you. And we have a second for Mr. Dinwiddie. Would you speak to your motion, Mr. Tybor?
We support the first rendition of this, and I would lean back to the comments in the minutes to that approval. I think that the staff recommendations are all good. This promotes the 2020 plan for Anchorage is in line with Title 21, and I intend to support the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Tybor, do you have anything to add?
Yes, just adding that it is consistent with Policy 50 of the Anchorage 2020 Comprehensive Plan, and I believe in the earlier hearing, I believe it was Commissioner Pratt that mentioned it's a botanical garden, and so it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, I think so. Is there any additional board comments? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, that is approved. Yeah. Sure. Procedurally, we need a motion to postpone case G1 to the February 8th meeting. Mr. Garcia? So moved.
I believe we should postpone the case 2011-141 to February 8th as listed on our meeting agenda.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Mr. Tybor. Is any objection to the motion to postpone? Seeing none, that is approved. That brings us to our next case, and I am going to step out of the room and turn the gavel over to Mr. Dinwiddie. And
I need a moment to...
No, I'm out of here.
I need a moment to change the equipment.
Okay.
Are you going to move down here? Okay, I just have to...
Does the commission just want to take a 5-minute break while you switch over?
Then I would have to pause it, and I don't have access to it. So
Okay.
take a break, but I'll still need to leave everything running.
Okay.
This won't take very long. Okay.
Do you need a gavel, Jeff?
You need to log in over here, Jeff.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me check something real quick.
I think that's I'm Jeff.
There's only one conflict of interest. It doesn't, you still need to sign a vote. I'm sure you do, but let me double check. Still requires 5, so we do have a short board.
Okay.
Did Sharon mention that?
She just wants me to read this to you.
Read what?
Read that when there's a short board, they have an option to.
And then what you ask is for the petitioner's representative to come forward and whether or not they want to go forward with the case or postpone.
Okay, good. Do you happen to have an agenda?
I have an agenda.
Let me share yours so we know where we are. Okay.
We moved on. And when you're ready, all right.
Let me log in.
The hardest part of the meeting. You want to go, there you go.
All right, the next case before us is case number 2011143. Petitioner's Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Rec. It's a site plan and landscape plan review for public park, site plan and review for Russian-Back Springs Park. Do we have a staff report?
First, you've got to do this.
Oh, yeah. First of all, because we have a short board, there's 5 members. When there's a short board, we have a policy, postponement of a public hearing. When there's a short board member of 5 members of the board or commission, a postponement is offered to and agreed to by the petitioner, then we will be moved to the next regular agenda. This should occur within 30 days. This does not require renoticing of the case, new public hearing notices, or advertising. If the petitioner is willing to postpone but unable to attend the next available meeting date within 30 days, the petitioner has a one-time only option to choose the next certain date he or she can attend at no extra fee. When a postponement is requested by the petitioner, there is no rescheduling fee, and a new public hearing date shall be determined by the planning department. This will be put in the case in the next available cutoff date queue as they're submitting their case for the first time. Will the petitioner come forward and let us know whether they want to exercise their right to postpone or if they'd like to present now?
My name is Peter Briggs with Corvus Design, the landscape architects on the project, and we wish to be heard this evening.
And you understand you're going to have a unanimous approval to get approval, correct? All 5 votes. Okay. Well, then now do we have a staff report?
Yes. The Parks and Recreation Department is requesting final review by the Urban Design Commission of the public facility site and landscape plans for the park. However, this project is appearing before the Commission for the first time, and the petitioner is requesting final approval of site plan and landscape plan. The petitioner is seeking only one review, given the scope of the project. The petitioner understands that they make this request at their own risk and that the Commission may require additional information for a final review. The park improvements are roughly located near the corner of 6th Avenue and Pine Street. The project seeks to create a more aesthetic and usable north entry for the park. There are little-used tennis courts, a derelict bathroom/storage building, and gravel parking lot will be removed, and these will be replaced with a new community space, a playground, a vault toilet, and a reconfigured paved parking lot. The project will also reduce the potential for pedestrian vehicle conflicts, upgrade a dilapidated area to a higher level of aesthetics, increase the visibility of the North Park entrance, and provide a neighborhood community gathering area. The parking lot will also act as a trailhead parking for skiers to access the park's ski trails, thereby taking some pressure off the chalet parking lot. The trail near the parking lot connects to the chalet. The combined planting and site plan shows a snow storage and detention basin. Snow storage cannot be combined with a detention basin. Separate snow storage and detention basin locations must be identified. A 4-foot-tall chain-link fence must be shown around the detention basin to ensure a safe environment for young children. And it would be great if there's an addition of thorny shrubs around the fence perimeter, which would further increase safety. The combined planting and site plan shows a dry creek bed element east of the play structures. A photograph illustrating the concept is on sheet L8. While a dry creek bed winding through a portion of the park and under a bridge would be visually appealing, it may have safety issues. Specifically, kids could throw the rocks at other children or adults, and the rocky surface may be difficult for toddlers to walk across. The surface could also present a challenge to elderly adults. That's all I have. If the commission has any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have questions of staff? Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, Sharon, on the petition for final review tonight, is that unique? Is it precedential?
It's not altogether unique. Occasionally, the commission does get requests to only do the one step, and usually it's with projects that have a pretty simple scope. You know, they're not a big project. And if the commission feels that there is enough material provided tonight so that you all have all your answers, all your questions are answered, and you feel that all the information is provided in the packet that you need to make a decision for final approval, then the commission has decided to do that in the past.
So staff thinks that the scope of this project is on the low side and meets whatever threshold that might be.
Well, the Parks Department is requesting it, that it just be a one-time through. But it's up to the commission to decide if you think you have all the information you need to do a final approval, or if you'd like them to come back again to provide additional information. If so, you should be specific, really to detail what further information that you want to make sure that they bring that to the next meeting, or the next, for their next submittal.
A follow-up, I think. I don't know if this should happen before or after the motion, but on the conditions, how are those enforced? Like, you say the plan needs to indicate separate locations for snow storage and detention bases. You need to reconsider the creek bed design. You need to resolve the building permit issue. You need to provide a site lighting plan. What's the process for making sure those things happen?
Well, if they were going to come back for a second time, if you were going to ask them to do that, then they would resolve all that when they come back for their next submittal.
That's right.
In lieu of that, what happens is that they'll come back and show all these revisions to the plan. They'll show it to me, and I'll check through the plans to make sure that they've addressed each of these. I would do that in any case. That's normally what we do before they can get a building permit, that's the final stage. Actually, UDC is like 3 stages. There's 2 stages normally before the UDC, and then the third step is they come in, because there's usually conditions, maybe even with the final approval, there are conditions. And so then staff will go through them and make sure that all the conditions have been met, and then we stamp it, sign it, and then they can go and get a building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon, have they, on your recommendation to not store snow in the detention basin, did you specify suggest to where they may put snow, or did you just?
No, through the chair, Mr. Dinwiddie, well, I guess you are acting chair. No, I didn't specify where they should store their snow. I left that decision up to them.
Are there any other questions for staff? Hearing no other questions, if the petitioner would come forward.
Good evening. My name is Peter Briggs with Corvus Design. I'm a landscape architect under contract to the Anchorage Park Foundation. And with me this evening is Suzanne Little with the Parks and Rec Department. Suzanne's going to give a little bit of background on the project, so I'll let her speak to it.
Thank you.
And final motor work.
My name is Suzanne Little. As Peter mentioned, I'm the Senior Park Planner with the Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm also a landscape architect. we achieved some funding, $750,000 from the state legislature to the Anchorage Park Foundation, a nonprofit corporation that works to rehabilitate our parks and facilities, and then $300,000 state legislative appropriation to the municipality of Anchorage. Our department chose to concentrate these funds on the most derelict part of the park, which is on the north side of the park, which is north of DeBar. And it's the place where the dilapidated tennis courts are currently. There's a couple of ball fields there, also an old restroom facility. So to begin our process, and given that there has been controversy in the past about Russian Jack Springs Park and any changes occurring there, we collectively thought the best thing to do would be to have a very extended and extensive public involvement process. So in the summer of 2010, our consultants, along with staff, worked to put together a series of 12 public meetings, and that occurred during the summer, culminating in a big sort of family gathering where we obtained information from people about what they'd like to see in the park, what was wrong, what they'd like to see fixed. And then in November of 2010, we requested the seating of a very important parks committee. We asked for representatives from Russian Jack's Community Council, Northeast Community Council, University Area Community Council, and then all of the stakeholders that either are or potentially could be using that part of the park. So we formed that committee. We held 6 two-hour-long meetings, including a meeting on site, and achieved a supported priority list for funding of improvements at the park. The top item was lighting the trail between basically the northeast part of the park and over to Boniface. And just so you know, we have installed the lighting on that trail, and you're all invited to our lighting ceremony on this Friday at 4 p.m. We'll turn on the lights. And then we're hoping to get through our review here in order to proceed to construction this summer of these improvements. We feel that they will provide a great benefit to the neighborhood and to the community at large. Peter will go into the specifics on the design and address some of the issues that have been brought forward already this evening.
So for the technical components of the project, up on, I don't know which page it is in the staff packet, but with our numbering on page 15, we have some aerial photos that were taken of the site. The one that's up on your screen right now, and what it shows is there's an existing bathroom and storage facility that's out there, and then 8 tennis courts, 4 existing tennis courts, the other used to be tennis courts, that are in various states of disrepair, with a chain link fence around it. The decision has been made to take that building out. The cost for renovating it would be extraordinarily high, and going with a facility like a pit toilet has less maintenance requirements for the city. So the demolition is going to be of the building, the fence, and the asphalt areas. Within we passed out an additional graphic this evening. It's a graphic update to a diagram that had been in your packet previously. So what we're showing in this is additional information for the development of the play area to the north. But I'd like to first of all start speaking about the parking lot. For the parking lot, we had a great opportunity with watershed management with the municipality. They want to use this as a case study for low-impact development. So from a drainage and stormwater point of view, staff comment number 3 has become obsolete because we will not be needing a stormwater detention area on the surface. The new idea for the site is that to be installing pervious pavement, which will allow a fair amount of the stormwater to percolate directly into the subgrade, and designing it for that. And then for any of the stormwater that does not go down or winds up migrating elsewhere, To the east of the parking lot will be subsurface percolation galleys, basically a perforated pipe underground, so the water will be moved underground rather than having it on the surface. One of the concerns with detention basins is fencing of them and keeping children or anyone out of them, because if they do detain water more than 12 or 18 inches, it can be quite dangerous, or less than that. So for the trails on the site, the lighting currently has been brought up to the existing shelter, which is to the southeast or the east of our site. What we will be providing is additional trail that comes up through the site and then connects up to and also a proposed trail upon Pine Street. AWU has gone through here and done some renovation to existing water mains, I believe, and as part of that project, they'll be installing a separated trail from the road. Currently on the road there's an attached sidewalk, but there's going to be the benefit then that there will be a trail to get people even further into the park and away from the road. One of the goals for the parking lot in the project was to separate pedestrian from vehicular traffic, and that's what the yellow arrows are showing, is that we're trying to move people around rather than through the parking lot. Speaking to accessibility, the yellow line that joins up with the sidewalk here will be the main accessible connection to the roadway. Within the parking lot, we're providing 6 ADA spaces for accessible spaces, 4 on the north part and 2 on the east part, just to make sure that we do capture people that are wanting to use this as a trailhead for skiing, running, jogging, versus the people that might be coming here for playground amenities. Speaking to lighting, the lighting for the parking lot is being designed to municipality requirements, and would meet Sharon's notes for this as well, for not having any light trespass over into the adjacent right-of-way for the road. And we do have photometrics and lighting analysis for that already developed that would meet the staff request. For the trail lighting, from the point where the system that Suzanne referenced has been put into place, additional poles will be installed in order to ensure that when you park here, you can ski all the way to the Boniface Tunnel. And I always call that the wrong road. Is that Boniface? To the tunnel. For the VIP committee, in their list of items, 2 of the ones that were close to the top, in addition to trail lighting, was the idea that this park really needed to have a better face for the street, create a community gateway, and invite people into the park, because currently in the graphics in your packet, you can see it's not a very inviting entrance to encourage people to come in. There will be gateway features out front that have a bit more of an artistic flair to them, that have enough of an element from the road that people can see that something is here and it's inviting for them, in addition to the provision of the play equipment and the plaza areas that will be included in there. For the play elements, there are 2 main areas. On the eastern part of it, with all the berming that we have, is more of a natural play area. That's where the dry creek bed structure is located. So it's intended to be more softscape, natural elements. It's something quite common nowadays. It's not quite an adventure playground, but it's encouraging children to be outside and interact with natural materials. So that area to the east. And then to the west, we're looking at items which are more standard play component items done in a custom fashion. So for some of the graphics for the natural play area, some equipment mixed in with natural features, and then initial concept drawings for some of the custom composite play components are included in that package that we gave to you, or the edition that we gave to you tonight as well. That's the summary. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer with the public hearing, however that works.
Peter, I heard you address one of the staff recommendations about the snow storage detention bases. Could you go into detail about for the other staff recommendations of how you plan on addressing those, maybe even for us item by item to make it simple for us, since it is a short board?
Certainly. So just to clarify, should I go through them number by number and just address how they're being dealt with?
Exactly.
And with my knowledge as well, typically if there was a request like this, it is worked out with staff to make sure that we do meet the requirements that are set out for us by UDC approval of this. Within number 1, that is a typical request with UDC packets, and that will be provided. Indicate separate locations for snow storage in the detention basin. We will no longer be having the detention basin at that location, so that area will become snow storage. The chain link fence on item number 3 will no longer be needed since we will not be having a detention basin. Parking lot lighting levels. We do have parking lot photometrics already done, so these are met or exceeded. Number 5, reconsider the dry creek bed design to ensure safety. That's a discussion that we can have with Sharon to get to the bottom of that comment. We recognize that there are issues when you provide stones. We can look at sizes and that kind of a thing, but it's also has an element of play philosophy to it, is that so public safety versus that, it's opinion-based. But I definitely hear that. 6, resolve the need for a building permit. That will happen through our typical permitting for the project. For the SST, the sweet-smelling toilet is what they're called typically. Funny name. For the pit toilet, any permitting that is required for that will be completed, and that is typically done by the manufacturer. If a building permit is not required, provide the following. We will still be meeting drainage requirements, grading and fill permit requirements, and any typical permitting required for a project of this scope. Provide samples of proposed regulatory and directional signage and proposed locations. That will be included within the plan set. The signs that will be installed will be Parks and Recreation typical signs. They have their own standards. The Type 3 sign will be the main sign for this location, and images for that will be shown. And then there will also be an informational kiosk that has an accompanying garbage can. Provide site lighting plan details, certified site lighting. We have a lighting engineer on board, and they've already provided us with some of that information for our package. Provide dimensions and topography for ADA access and driveway connection to Pine Street. As I mentioned, the ADA access will happen along that trail connection that leads people directly to the park rather than through the parking lot. And the parking lot also will be designed to meet ADA requirements. It's a pretty flat site in the first place, so it would be kind of hard for us not to meet ADA slopes. And I believe there are 10 comments. So, yes, and the playground typically requires 50% of components be rated for accessibility, and we're hoping to exceed that as we can. We're actually meeting with someone locally who's been a champion for that next week to see if there are any ways we can improve the project.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the petitioner? Commissioner Garcia.
I had a question in regards to the snow storage location. Scaling-wise, it's located at the beginning of it's approximately, I believe, 60 feet from the edge of the parking lot area, and I believe you guys have a curb detail going around. So sort of wondering how you're going to plow the snow through the curb 60 feet to the snow storage area. Or I may be misreading how that's detailed.
The design for the parking, thank you for the question. The design for the parking lot actually has a fair amount of the parking lot not being plowed in the winter. So I'm going to cover up the area which is intended to not be plowed. It's expected that because the ball fields and the soccer fields won't see winter use, the winter use for the park will be mainly skiing and access to the playground, so it'll have a reduced parking demand. So the amount of snow storage is based on a smaller amount of paved area. And then in the northeast part of the parking lot here will be a maintenance gate with a rolled curb that allows maintenance to come through, push the snow into this area. And for a winter like now, they'll help as much as they need.
Okay. The second question I had, thank you for that response, was the traffic department had a comment about providing direct connection to 6th Avenue to the baseball fields. I didn't necessarily see that, or maybe I didn't see direct access on this drawing I have.
So, and we spoke with traffic department, we explained the plan to them, and that area is outside of our scope. So currently there is a pedestrian connection to 6th that provides access into the trails in the dog park area up here. So there's one that is more of an informal connection. And then we're also providing access up to 6th along Pine Street. So there is a way that people can get off the sidewalks that's adjacent to the road.
Okay. Oh, I interpret it for vehicle access. Was I
And that's not feasible for our parking lot. There the two existing baseball fields there.
Yeah, I didn't see how it would be feasible, so I was sort of wondering how you were going to attack
For,
that.
for the current parking lot, it is using the existing access, which lines up approximately with 9th. And then internal to the site, there's also a little bit of a shortcut gravel drive that goes down to the parking area as well, another parking area.
Okay. And my last comment is I'm so excited to see a vault toilet and not a porta potty. Thank you very much, Parks Department.
I was expecting the light.
I was I think it would only be unfair for us to have not made a
We're still going to put a surround around it, just to make it look like it might be a porta potty.
And actually, there is a porta potty that's located to the north side of the playground area. Are those two porta potties going to stay in use, or are those getting removed?
There would be no need for them anymore with this facility.
The ball field folks are still required at their other locations to have portable toilets, but
You have to speak in the mic.
I'm sorry.
No.
The Softball Association is still required to provide portable toilets at their south fields, but this should serve the north side of the fields.
Okay. And then, excuse me, I remember reading a comment from somebody concerned about the noises and disturbances from field users, specifically baseball players. I didn't know if there was anything being done to mitigate maybe that visual disturbance or noise disturbance. I know it wasn't a condition of staff. I
Yeah.
remember reading that comment.
We're not making any changes to the ball fields other than we're providing a decent place for people to park.
Okay.
And speaking to nuisances such as noise and dust, currently the parking area through there is in really bad shape. It fills in with water and it can be fairly dusty at times. By paving this parking area, we'll reduce one neighborhood nuisances. The dust will be significantly reduced.
Okay. That's all I had.
Commissioner Tiber.
Yes, it seemed like you indicated you might have some concern with staff's recommendation number 5, the reconsider the dry creek bed design to ensure safety. If that remained a condition for approval, would you have any objection to that?
Oh, certainly not. And what I meant before was not saying that the comment wasn't founded. The comment is completely founded. Anytime you provide rocks or materials, kids are apt to throw them, so it becomes a call from a risk management point of view. So it's good to hear that, to bring it directly to Parks and Rec's attention. The feature itself, we think, is a really great aesthetic feature, but there might be another way that we can do it to reduce the risk of those issues, even if it's a matter that there's no rock material between the size of gravel and bigger stones. So if we reduce the smaller stuff that can be thrown, that's an example of working with that.
Sure.
No, it's a good comment. We're fine with it in there.
Thank you.
30-pound rocks. Any other questions for the petitioner? I have a couple questions, Peter. On the north ADA parking structure, is that a rolled curb all the way along the path there? So, I mean, basically you can roll a wheelchair right over that north curb along the yellow line?
With the, I'll show you the parking plan. With the parking plan, in order to make the ADA parking a bit more accessible, equidistantly, we're going to shift it to the center of that space, and it's going to be a sidewalk that drops down to the parking lot level, and then it'll have 2 linear ramps that come back up. So there are portions along that face where it'll be a flush connection to the parking area.
Okay, and then with all the vandalism and quote-unquote fires or whatever, what is the safety surface you're going to put in with the play equipment?
An engineered wood fiber. They're available locally now through Fairbanks, and I think there's actually a Valley producer of it as well.
Okay. And then the permeated pavement, I'm familiar with that project. How does that, if it's a parking lot and people are driving on in the winter, the frost is going to be driven anywhere from 2 feet to 10 feet on a cold winter. How is that, the months of April, May, how does that allow for permeation when the ground subgrade's frozen?
Below the parking area is 4 feet of a large fractured material, probably in the range of 3 to 6 inches, so it's going to have a gap of about 30% in it. So the voids that are within that will allow free draining. If we had the worst possible conditions where you had freeze thaw, and the water slowly filled up those voids, that's why we have the other subsurface. So if the pervious pavement winds up failing due to conditions of a given winter, the water will still be underground in the underground galleys. Yeah. So rather than going down, it'll just go over and then down.
Okay.
But and to state that this is being a case study for low impact development in town, I think they're doing 2 of these projects. Permeable pavements are not that common for us,
right.
So this is an experiment, and it's I believe that it's basically an unfunded EPA mandate that local governments start to look at these types of ways.
Right, so even if the pervious pavement fails, it's being designed on a regular surface runoff system, like all of our parking lots have, but with an underground, basically drainage area.
And if that fails, there's a wetland that it'll go into before it goes into somebody's house or the road. And wetlands, I hear, are good with dealing with water.
Okay. Sharon.
Yes, thank you. Couple of things. On the children's playground, on what we got today, is that going to be a little Merrill Field playhouse? I mean, that's what it says.
Yes.
Is it supposed to look like?
It's intended to be a little control tower and has an airplane adjacent to it, so a couple of kids can sit in and pretend they're flying a bush plane.
Oh, that's very cute. I like that. I mean, it puts you in place, in context of where you live and
with not having that much, 10 minutes is a lot of time, but the entire playground is meant to be an Alaska theme. Is that there's a bow to water fishing net theme. There's a snowcat, glacier trail crevasse theme to it. So the playground is custom and is meant to be special to the neighborhood and to us locally.
Now, that concept, that idea, did it come from the designers or did people in the neighborhood?
It's come from everywhere. When we did talk to kids in school or kids on the site, they were really interested in the images that we showed them of more adventure-type playgrounds or playgrounds that weren't just out of the box. So from a playground point of view where you try to provide enough theming that a kid can come out there and have a little bit of imagination provided to them, or that somebody just comes out there and, kids would take a boat and they turn into a spaceship. So it's just providing enough out there that they can have an excuse to play.
A few other things. The gateway feature, you mentioned that you were going to provide one. Do you have any ideas at this point what that may consist of?
Yes, one of the ideas is to have fairly large structures that are literally gateways that have the silhouettes of community faces cut into steel into them. So you're basically walking almost through sounds weird, through somebody's head.
Community faces?
So you have the silhouette of somebody's front of the face. So then you see different profiles of different people.
Okay.
And it's a fairly ambitious project, and one of the things we're going through is trying to balance all the items within our budget. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how rich we can make it initially.
So it's something on either side of the driveway?
And if you give me 2 seconds, I have something. Elmo doesn't look like he gives a very good image up there. Oh, better for you. So something like that, pending value engineering.
Oh, I see. So it's a profile on either side. I see. Okay.
As an opportunity, and then as well, the Park Foundation, Healthy Parks, Healthy People, being their logo or their catchphrase or whatever you call it.
And
they've translated into a number of languages, so the idea is on the sides there where there's a more black bit would be Healthy Parks, Healthy People in different languages.
And
Hmong, Thai,
cut out of steel or?
Yeah, and right now we size it structurally to be 1/4-inch steel for the silhouette.
Let's see. The dry creek bed, just to talk about that one once again. So, I'm fine with the concept of it, but you said you might be able to, instead of doing rocks that can be thrown, something else. I didn't quite catch all that.
Rather than, there's a size range that kids can pick up easily. It's harder to pick up something like this. So if we went large boulders, big rocks, and then we went more to sand or gravels,
like a pea gravel,
a pea gravel, or a combination thereof. It's just what we're trying to do is have enough materials in there that has textures from a universal design and access point of view. For when we speak to universal design or accessible design, it's not just about kids who are in wheelchairs or people in wheelchairs. The gamut of whether it's autism or otherwise. Playgrounds that are rich in textures, natural materials, things you can put your fingers into tend to have therapeutic benefits as well. So a feature like this, where we can get all these different types of gravel or rocks or surfaces in, has another layer to it from a play design point of view.
And one more, I didn't catch the part where you were talking about not having to plow that center part of the parking lot. Can you?
Since the 107 spaces is based on each field, there are 4 sports fields up here, has a demand of about 25 cars, and then we have some extra in that. Since the sports fields aren't needed in the winter, the idea is that the area right here where my fingers are covering it does not get plowed.
Okay.
And the other benefit to that as well is that it won't damage the pervious paving.
Okay. Is there thought that during the wintertime there may be a lot of skiers that will come and use it as a trailhead to get on the ski path, and there may be a whole lot of winter use?
Yes, and I think we're leaving about 40 spaces.
And you think that's adequate?
That's our estimate so far.
Okay. Yeah, and then just one more thing. I just wanted to congratulate Suzanne on deciding to do the vault toilet. I'll have to send the plan to James Doherty. So.
I sat through that whole presentation.
Are there any more questions of the petitioner? Seeing no Commissioner Garcia.
I just had one quick one. On the original plans we were given, there was that glass reinforced concrete play structure. Is that obsolete now and these 2 new ones are being replaced, or is that one still?
The idea of the glass reinforced concrete is to add sculptural elements, and we're still looking at components of those. What we found is that they are extraordinarily expensive. You don't get much bang for your buck. So we're looking at the balance between these items that can really be amazingly beautiful versus trying to have as much play opportunities as possible.
And the only reason I make that comment is because based on the new 2 descriptions that are shown, that playground equipment tends to be, looks like it's more adequate for kids like 3 to 7-ish. I know that when I've been there, lots of times the doll players and people have their kids there who are like ages 9 to 13 and sometimes need.
For ages for the play equipment, the design for this one, this is based on features are typically ages 5 to 12. And this is only about about a half or 2/5 of the equipment that will be planned in here. There's still the intent that in the center of that play area there's a large, the cool structure where it's developing that with the manufacturers right now.
For ages 5 to 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so most of the playground will be designed for 5 to 12, and then up in this corner, this equipment is definitely tailored to more 2 to 5.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? Seeing no questions, hang on. We'd like to open the public hearing this time. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to testify? Please approach and state your name for the record into the mic.
Hi, good evening. My name is Richard Brown, B-R-O-W-N. I'm here about the Russian Jack, and I've been going out there running my dogs over there for a good 30 years, long before there were soccer fields or any bike paths or anything like that. The ball fields were there. But I like the improvements they've made so far with well, for one thing, they have they just put new piping down along Pine Street, and so any of your concerns about runoff or things like that, I think they've taken care of pretty well. It was all brand new from the bar all the way to 6th Street. They dug up big pipes in there. I don't know what they're all about. As far as housing was concerned, if you go to buy a house, you don't buy it next to a factory. These people that have these houses across the street, they hear the ball field. I would have probably known better if I needed a house by that time, because that you're going to, when you have to put up 4 ball fields working all at once, you're going to have a lot of noise. Parking is one of the biggest things that I need to see done. Every day I come back at breakup, they push all the snow out on the edges, like the rest of us do. I should try to get rid of it. It's a dirt field now, the parking lot. There at by where the tennis court is. The other parking lot is always closed during the winter between the 2 ball fields. So anyway, you can be fine until you get to the parking lot. Once you get to the parking lot, the dog picks up all kind of mud, and I have to keep towels with me so that I can try to wipe off some of it before it gets into the car. And playgrounds, I think that they definitely do need these more. They only have that one little slide and little gym thing, and on baseball day, you know, like on the weekends, a lot of times I go over to Campbell's field because there's no place to park with all those guys in there. That is great. So the main thing I'm interested in, though, is that parking lot getting paved so that we can get from the trails and so forth into it. Get her in the car without having all that mud and so forth. Now that's maybe what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any questions? Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Are there any other people who wish to speak? Please state your name for the record in the mic and speak into the mic.
My name is Fred McCleary. I'm a member of the Russian Jack Community Council. And as the Russian Jack Springs Park...
Are you speaking on your behalf or the behalf of the...
behalf of the council.
Okay, thank you. Please spell your name for us, your last name.
M-C-L-E-A-R-Y.
Thank you. Good. Proceed.
As the Russian Jack Springs Park is within our council's borders, we've been very interested in the current improvement efforts targeted for it. Members of our council have been actively involved in this project from the beginning, including requesting and receiving appropriations through our legislators, specifically targeted for improvements to the park. We held a community barbecue in the park in order to generate feedback from both the neighborhood and folks that are using the park. And excuse me. We feel that any improvements that would increase the usage for residents and including children would be a benefit to everyone. As the immediate neighborhood is mainly comprised of high-density, high-tenant turnover housing, we feel improvements that include play equipment and other children-oriented activities would help keep them off the streets, out of trouble, and possibly cut down on crime and or vandalism in the area. We feel that increasing the visibility of the amenities contained within the park, in addition to identifying signage, would directly lead to more usage by residents in the surrounding neighborhoods. If they can see it, it would be more likely that they would use it, essentially. Therefore, we requested a destination playground be included and a welcoming gateway and park identity elements. We would like to say that we approve of the plan that the Parks and Rec has brought forth, and we appreciate it if you would approve it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Thank you for coming down today. Are there any other further public comments? Seeing no. Would you does the petitioner wish to come rebuttal or have anything more to say? Okay. Seeing no comments, the public hearing is now closed. And I'd like to entertain a motion from the floor. Commissioner Garcia would you like to speak to your motion? We'd like to have a motion from Commissioner Garcia.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 2011-143, the Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Recreation, in regards to site plan and landscape review for the Russian Jack Springs Park. I'd like to make that approval based on contingent upon department recommendations 1 through 10. However, I would like to strike item number 2, indicate separate locations for snow storage and detention basin, and item number 3, a 4-foot chain link fence shall be thrown around the detention basin. Based on the information provided by the petitioner this evening, they will no longer be required to have a detention basin, so I feel those 2 items are not relevant based on testimony from the petitioner.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner Tiber.
Thank you. I intend to support the motion. The project furthers the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Development Plan and conforms to the Comprehensive Development Plan in the manner required by Chapter 2105. The identified improvements are consistent with the 1979 Russian Jack Springs Park Master Plan. Also consistent with policies 42, 44, and 50 of the 2020 Anchorage 2020 Comprehensive Plan. We've heard supportive public testimony. I think my personal opinion is the improvements are very attractive and will be well utilized and received by the community. I intend to support it.
Any discussion? Commissioner Pratt.
Yeah, thank you. And the motion is for final approval, right?
Yeah, I personally am in agreement that at this time we will not need a secondary approval for the landscape design based on the information provided in the packet and by the testimony today by the petitioner.
I think that's true. Yeah, I like this plan too. It does, the community has been working on this for quite some time, trying to get it fixed up. And when you've got derelict facilities, I guess that would attract derelicts to the area too. So that's probably this is probably all good. I like the plan, and I'm going to support this motion. I'm just hoping that whatever the community gateway turns out to be, I hope that it's better than the community gateway that's on Elmore Road between Abbott and just north of Abbott there. Those things are kind of weird. I couldn't figure out what they were, but your plan looks really good, so thank you.
Any further discussion?
Am I supposed to follow up now?
I'll just like to say that commend Susan Little for her engaging the community. It's nice to have public testimony that's in support of a lot of times we have these cases come before us and we don't hear from the community, and we like to I like to say that that's always positive and helps sway our decision to if there was. And with that, Mr. Garcia, Commissioner Garcia, would you like to?
I guess my findings were already reiterated for me by Mr. Tiber. Thank you for saving me from having to do those again. I would also like to congratulate the Parks and Recreation Department on doing the vault toilet. I'm very excited to see that implementation. Thank you very much. I also personally visit this park, and I think this is going to be a fabulous improvement in regards to the parking area, which the gravel can be quite disruptive, travel a large way, and cause quite a nuisance for people who are in that general vicinity. And the play structures that have been shown to date show vast improvement upon what's already there. And I'm very excited to frequent this park following the construction process. And that's pretty much all I have at this time.
All right, seeing no approval, that motion passes. No objections, I assumed everybody. Seeing no objection, that the motion passes.
I don't get the gavel out.
No.
I don't get the gavel out.
We're adjourned. Yeah, we'll get out of here in a minute. Our next item of business is appearance requests. We don't have any appearance requests tonight. That brings us to reports. The chair doesn't have any reports. The secretary did share with me that we have 2 appointments to the board going forward. Mr. Gasik's reappointment and Laura's appointment to the board is going forward to the assembly. So hopefully those will go through, but that'll still leave us 1 person short. So
Right, and I have an architect, a female, who's expressed some interest in being on the commission. So she's supposed to get me a resume and application probably tomorrow, and then I'll forward it to the mayor's office and hope for the best.
Okay, great. If you could forward that to me too, and I can follow up with a phone call.
Oh, very good, very good. Because that always helps.
Yeah.
And then, if I may, I had a couple of items. One, Lori, I wasn't sure on that South Anchorage High School. Did you abstain on the vote?
No, I was told you listened to the testimony.
So you did vote one way or the other? Because I looked up quickly and I thought I saw a check and another. Okay, you did. Okay, I wasn't sure. I just want to check. And then I was also supposed to bring to everyone's attention that, one, we have the 1 vacancy in the UDC, which I just talked about. We also have a vacancy on the Planning Zoning Commission and a vacancy on the Platting Board. If you all know of anybody who would be interested in sitting on either the P&Z or the Platting Board, do let us know, and we'll contact them or have them send their resume and stuff in to us.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, is there any other commissioner comments tonight?
I actually had one comment.
Okay.
Jim actually said, remember reading an email that you sent about that UA Sports Arena parking capacity. I don't know if there's been any changes in regards to that. Basically what I'm asking is the packet that I had a month ago still valid, or am I
do still hang on to that. The consultants are going to be getting additional information, and they are having to go forward to get a variance at Ziba, because the code says, the parking lots that they intend to use, some are on the other side of Providence Drive, and Providence Drive is a minor arterial. And the code says you can do shared parking, and that's what they intend to do, is to have shared parking with these other lots. But if pedestrians are having to cross anything greater than a collector status, you're going to have to seek a variance from Ziba to allow that, because it's not permitted under the code. So they're going to have to do that. They're going to do that probably concurrently. They're going to go to this is all rush because they, want to clear the land before the nesting bird season begins. So everything is in a rush. So they had asked to go to Ziba way earlier than they should. So they're going to be going to Ziba February 9th, and they're here for UDC on February 8th, the night before. So I'm going to write it, condition it, with Zeba's approval, that if they get approval from Zeba, then they can go forward. If not, they're in trouble. But we won't know what Zeba's, of course, going to do. You guys won't know what Zeba's going to do because it's the following night, but this is kind of the situation we're in, or they're in.
Their alternative would be to build a parking garage on that site if they don't get their variance approved?
I guess the parking, that hasn't come up. They haven't said anything about a parking garage. They're building 600 parking spaces on site. They have 500 spaces they're going to use from Providence Hospital right next door. And then they're using some of the lots at the Consortium Library across the street and the Integrated Science Building. They do have a parking garage there. So they think with the combination of all those parking spaces, they can meet required code.
Okay. And it's my understanding my email was forwarded to the applicant.
It was, yes, and they are addressing those. And in fact, they're going further, and they've really met with Stephanie Mormello, the traffic engineer, and they're getting up to date on, their parking study to her and the state. And they are applying for a joint parking agreement with the Muni. That's in motion. So everything's pretty much in motion.
Yeah, and they also had a parking management plan that they were going to prepare, but they didn't provide any details to that.
Right, they're getting that
how
too.
How that's going to work.
Right, there were no details, right. And so Stephanie, they are providing all that material to Stephanie. But to make matters worse, she's going out of town Thursday night for almost 2 weeks. So it's like...
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, I'll reiterate, I think they need a written approval from Stephanie and DOT.
Oh, they will. They will, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that would be good.
That I think is understood.
Something else that I've paid a little more attention to lately with some of our packets is the level of detail of plans at different stages for different applicants. The concept landscape plan from the fire department we got today was very detailed. And the concept landscape plan for the sports arena has almost nothing.
Yeah, I think you have to stress that, because I went back to the petitioner and said, there's no information on this, not just landscape, but even site plan. There's very little detail. And he came back and said, the code says I don't have to provide it. And so I think I felt the same way. We discussed it internally, and I think came down and they said, okay, but if you all were, the bottom line is you guys make the decision. If you're not comfortable with the level of detail that's provided, you can postpone it and have them come back until, when they provide additional detail. But, or if that's the way you feel now, you ought to have them do that now.
The code is very specific about the scale of the site plans we're supposed to get, and this one doesn't come close.
Right.
It's to no scale.
Yeah.
I can't find any engineering scale that fits that drawing.
Right. Yeah. I know, I had the same concerns.
Their submittal's making me crazy, Sharon.
Yeah. Because this is a rush job, and
it's a huge job.
Yeah, it's huge.
The Sullivan Arena.
I know.
Shortlisted.
Making me crazy.
You're right, and that's been mentioned several times that this is another Sullivan Arena, and it's a huge, huge project.
$100 million project, and they're giving us.
I know.
Crap to review. Is that a good thing to go? I
think if you want anything, you ought to tell them now, because they want to get approval in February. So if you think things are missing, go ahead, send it to me. I will pass it on to the design consultants, because unlike other projects, had they come in the fall and we had a few months for them to come back again and provide all the details that you guys wanted, it'd be that two-step process where we'd have the opportunity to do that. Then, we wouldn't have to do all this, but because they were looking for approval next month, there's still an opportunity for them to provide the information that you want. So just send what you think is lacking, the information that you want, and I'll pass it on to them, and they'll provide it. They'll have to. because there's, if they want to get approval next month, and I know that they do.
Yeah.
I know.
Providence is an arterial, so they're required to provide arterial landscaping. There was no discussion of that in their submittal or no detail of it on their plan.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Right. So ask for all the detail that you need, and I think they'll appreciate it because they can take care of this now, and it's more of a burden on you all at this point, but they're marching forward.
Sure they are.
Yeah, the trains are rolling.
I know. They're marching forward with structural, civil, and vertical construction.
Is there any other commission comments? Evidently not. Can I have a motion for adjournment? Moved by Mr. Garza, seconded by somebody.
I seconded. Thomas beat me.
Yeah, my machine shut off, so we're adjourned.